The nightmare. How do you clean this thing that looks really, really sensitive, that looks like a flat screen TV? Welcome to the world of technology, which is now a modern version of an instrument cluster, which is probably the reason you're here. How do we keep this clean? Well, I'm gonna tell you how to keep it super simple and how to keep it super safe with one product and one tool. And my one product is distilled water. My one tool is a brand new microfiber cloth. This is a Kirkland brand. Highly recommend them. Easy to get, pretty cheap, almost to the point where they're disposable. Why microfiber cloth? Because it is the safest, most absorbent, and lint-free cloth that you can choose, which is ideal for the context that we are trying to deal with, which is cleaning the navigation screen, instrument cluster. It really matters not, because you, as a driveway detailer, as a car owner, are going to interpret every one of those surfaces as being delicate, which is correct on your part. So therefore, how do you respond appropriately in a safe but yet effective manner? And this is me keeping it super simple. And this is me teaching you how to keep it super simple. So literally grab your cloth. And yes, I do reserve a dedicated cloth just for these tasks alone, because I don't want my cloth to be commingled with other chemicals or other debris. So I will keep a virgin cloth just reserved for this. And I spray, that was what, 4 times? Doesn't take a lot. Wipe it down. Now you literally could just stop there, but if you were to grab a magnifying glass, you might see that there might be little tiny water residue marks. How's that for a description? I don't even know what to call it, but they're there. So you flip the cloth over to the dry side and you buff it to perfection, even though it's already perfected already. But you may have really high standards, but there's your answer right there. But you may ask, Darren, why distilled water? That's not a requirement. You can use regular tap water. It's not going to make or break your world. The reason I use distilled water is because it is the purest water that you and I have access to. I can buy it in a gallon size from the market, and I know that it is pure as pure can be. Now, specifically, I started using distilled water back in the day when I'm doing waterless wash methods in the direct sunlight, where I'm dealing with the water, possibly flash drying on the car as I'm working on the exterior of the car, like the windows, the paint, that kind of stuff. Because I know that there's no minerals of any kind in this. It's what's called total dissolved solids and minerals that create hard water. Therefore, if I were to dump this distilled water on the paint and allow it to dry in the direct sunlight, it's not going to produce any permanent water spots. It's not going to etch into the paint. It's as safe can get. Therefore, since I'm already using it, I'm going to use it to clean any of these sensitive gauges. Basically, this is how I perform a final inspection. Once everything is completely done, this is perhaps the last stage that I do when I'm detailing the interior of a car, is I will go through and now I will scrutinize any reflective or semi-shiny or highly shiny surface, which includes this form of glass, which may actually be a type of glass. It could be a plastic. It doesn't really matter. The point is that it reflects some degree, which means that the residues will show of my cleaners that I used. I don't want any of the residues to show. Those residues aren't going to cause any damage, which means you don't have to now go through and wipe down every surface that you used an upholstery cleaner on. It just means I don't want it to show for purely visual perfection. So this is how I touch up the interior on any material that's shiny and reflective that will possibly show some kind of cleaner residue. It could be this little button itself that has a satin type of chrome finish. It could be this black veneer of the control arm here. So you just go through and you scrutinize it. Now you may wonder, like, oh Darren, you know what, they make special products for those, quick detailers, whatever. There's a problem with those, and let me explain. These typically have some type of coating on them, some type of layer on them, which is an anti-glare anti-smudge type of coating. We'll just call it that. The problem then becomes, based on the product that you choose as to finish this to perfection, may interfere with that anti-glare coating, that anti-smudge coating. Not in an unsafe manner, but in a purely aesthetic manner, which means this: when you apply it, it creates an unwanted effect to the appearance. So this distilled water, it's as perfect as it's going to get. This looks brand new, it looks stock, it looks the way it should. But if you apply, let's say, a wax or a quick detailer or a ceramic something or other, it may create a haze or a shadow, some type of unwanted effect that could prove problematic, which means like, oh, I just put something on there that I thought would be better than distilled water, and now I've got to correct it, and wait, I guess I'll just reach for my distilled water and try to finesse it to perfection. So now you've just become redundant, you've wasted your time and effort when you could have kept it super simple by just using distilled water like Darren's trying to teach you. Anyhow, or let's pretend for a moment that you have an even better solution, because there's someone out there that will say, hey, Darren, you don't even need to use distilled water. You could just use a microfiber cloth. And they could use the example of when you get a pair of new sunglasses, they have a really fine, thin microfiber little swatch that you can clean your glasses without any type of liquid chemical. And I would say, yes, that would work. But I would also tell you that it will work, but not as good as using it with distilled water. Something you might add along the way is, wait, Darren, distilled water is not gonna cut through the fingerprints that are greasy and grimy. It's like, okay, really, what's happening to this? Are you letting your dog lick it? Maybe your kids are licking it. Maybe your kids are putting some sloppy ice cream fingerprints on it. Well, maybe. But what I can tell you is that virtually anything that's gonna get on this is water soluble. If you don't think so, rub your hand across your face and get all the oils on your face onto your hand, like this. And now I'm just gonna put my greasy fingerprints on. Oh, wow, see, my face is really, really greasy. But guess what? Have you ever washed your hands underneath just running tap water because there's a little bit of grease on your fingerprints, which is a natural byproduct of just being human, of biology? So this is water soluble. Bam, it's gone. Distilled water. Once again, you don't have to overthink it. Virtually anything that's going to get on this screen is going to be water soluble. Therefore, you do not have to overthink it with a special dedicated cleaner of some kind. And by the way, in case you're wondering, which you probably aren't going, but Darren's going to insert it anyways, which is this: water is nature's most prolific solvent. It dissolves so much of everything. How about that as a little footnote?